Hi, Broadway. This past week, I've been reading in the book of Judges in the Old Testament, and I've been quite encouraged by the life of Gideon in Judges 6 and 7. Gideon was living in a bleak time in Israel's history. The Israelites were worshiping idols and not serving the Lord. And so, as a result, the Lord allowed the Midianites, the neighboring Midianites, to oppress them. But yet in his mercy, when the Israelites cried out to him, he heard them and he chose to use Gideon to deliver his people. But Gideon was not naturally a bold man. He called himself the least in his family, but the Lord gave him a new identity. He called him a mighty warrior. And he asked him to pull down the idols that were in the town as a beginning to cleanse Israel. And in Judges 6:27, it says, "So Gideon took 10 of his servants and did as the Lord told him. But because he was afraid of his family and the townspeople, he did it at night rather than in the daytime." I'm kind of encouraged by this because even though Gideon was afraid, and this wasn't naturally something he would normally do, he chose to obey God and to trust him that he would see it through. And God didn't scold him for this, but God honored this step of faith on Gideon's part. And a couple verses later, in verse 34, it says that the Spirit of the Lord came on Gideon. And then what follows is quite a remarkable account of how the Lord used Gideon to defeat the Midianites and free his people. So Gideon stepped out in faith and obedience, even though he was afraid. And I'm encouraged that God didn't scold him or write him off because he was afraid, but he encouraged him and he equipped him for the task that he had. And so it just made me think about my own life and how does God want to use me, even though I might be going through a period where I'm afraid or I'm outside of my comfort zone. God still wants to use me, and He honors even a small step of faith. And so I would encourage you not to let fear define you, but to just take trust and obey and let God direct your paths for His glory. Thanks.